Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. I know it's been a minute since I've been on here, kind of giving my 2 cents on some things, but obviously as we inch closer to the 2024-2025 season, I'll be uploading much more, staying kind of on top of things in terms of posting videos. Obviously, I'm going to always be on top of things, all news 49ers related and really anything NFL related. But in terms of posting videos and things, during the off season, there's not always a lot to talk about. Obviously, when you get into like the summer months, June, July, obviously that's when, OTAs and camp, tend to start. Obviously, August is really when things really start ramping up. Because obviously the season starts in September every year. But either way, so obviously stay tuned. I'll be uploading much more as we inch closer to the season. But I definitely wanted to come on here and kind of give my 2 cents on this Brandon Aiyuk situation. Look, I mean, obviously I've been keeping up with the entire situation from start to finish. A lot of things have happened since the end of the year. Obviously, when the season did end, Brandon Aiyuk put out a cryptic post on social media basically saying that, like, don't forget what got you there, knowing that he was, going to be due for a contract extension. And like I kind of thought in the beginning of it all, the 49ers have, we're in August now, and Brandon Aiyuk still does not have a contract extension. And it's gotten to the point where he's requested a trade. Obviously, similar to the Debo situation, the 49ers very quickly came out, publicly said that, they have no intentions of trading Brandon Aiyuk. And that kind of went on for multiple weeks. And then just over the last week or two, the 49ers have, gave Brandon Aiyuk permission to talk with other teams regarding a contract extension, and have basically now, they're basically now actively listening to trade offers for Brandon Aiyuk. So there's been a couple teams that have been involved in these discussions, most notable team names: Pittsburgh Steelers, the New England Patriots, Washington has been thrown around out there. The Cleveland Browns have been thrown around out there. Now, I know as far as the New England Patriots go, they have withdrew themselves from the talks in a potential trade for Brandon Aiyuk. So Brandon Aiyuk will not be going to the New England Patriots unless something pretty wild happens. So they have withdrew themselves from a potential Brandon Aiyuk trade. And really the most notable teams, I know the Commanders are seemingly out of this conversation as well. The most notable teams right now are the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was reported that Brandon Aiyuk, the Patriots had it roughly a $31 million to $32 million per year contract extension on the table for Brandon Aiyuk. And really all that needed to be done was the Patriots had to figure out who they were trading Brandon Aiyuk for, right? They were trying to figure out a trade package. So that's why this situation is pretty interesting, because obviously not only does Brandon Aiyuk have to agree to terms on a contract extension with whatever team the 49ers trade him to, but the 49ers also have to agree on the trade terms, right? They have to agree with, that respected team and who they're getting in return. And the reason it's a double-edged sword is because say the Cleveland Browns come to San Francisco and they offer, a package that the 49ers think is fair and they want to accept the trade. Brandon Aiyuk still has to agree to a contract extension with the Cleveland Browns then in order for the trade to go through. So, whether Brandon Aiyuk agrees to terms for this, on a contract with the Steelers, none of that matters. All that matters is the 49ers have to also agree on who they're getting in return, right? They have to agree to terms on the trade. So that's really been the massive holdup with this whole situation. I mean, there's been a couple teams out there, from what has been reported, that have paid Brandon Aiyuk the money that he wants, but they're not giving the 49ers the right, trade pieces, whether that's draft picks, players, whatever it is. They haven't gave the 49ers a package in which the 49ers are willing to accept. And that's really that's the biggest problem with the situation that currently stands with Brandon Aiyuk. Like, yeah, he could say that he wants to go to Pittsburgh or Washington or New England, wherever, right? Cleveland. But the bottom line is that the ball is also in the 49ers' court in terms of being able to accept that potential trade and agree to terms with that respective team and what they're getting in return. So it's been a whirlwind with this Brandon Aiyuk thing, right? Like, obviously, as a Niners fan, I have seen, multiple times with this regime of, front office and head coach and Kyle Shanahan, I've seen multiple times where, they have waited all offseason to reach an agreement on a contract extension. They did it with Deebo Samuel. They did it with Nick Bosa, most notably last year when he was signed the Friday before Sunday, which was opening day. So he was literally signed to his contract extension 2 days prior to the NFL season starting. And I believe with the Deebo situation, he was signed in late July, early August, if I can remember right. I'm pretty sure it was in July, though. They were able to reach an agreement with Deebo Samuel just a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of moving pieces with this whole situation with Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, is he deserving to be paid? Absolutely. He's the 49ers' number one wide receiver. The season he had just last year was his best season of his career. So he definitely is deserving of a contract. Now, obviously, there were reports a month or two ago that the 49ers came to Brandon Aiyuk with a 25 to 26 million roughly per year extension, and Brandon Aiyuk politely, maybe not politely, but Brandon Aiyuk declined that contract offer. Again, this was after the Amon-Ra St. Brown extension, after there was a few wide receivers, I can't think off the top of my head, there's a few wide receivers, though, that were paid after the 49ers came to Brandon Aiyuk with the $25 to $26 million per year extension. Hence to why Brandon Aiyuk declined, because obviously Amon-Ra, his contract really reset the market. And the market right now for wide receivers is up here, and it's probably only going to get higher when guys like Jamar Chase get extended. There's a couple other big-name receivers out there that are in need of an extension. CeeDee Lamb is another one. CeeDee Lamb's currently holding out of camp as well, obviously awaiting his contract extension. So, whenever Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb get paid, the price tag for Brandon Aiyuk could go up even more. And is Brandon Aiyuk in the same tier of receivers as CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson? Probably not. I would put Brandon Aiyuk probably in the tier below those guys. I mean, those guys are, top receivers in the league. And I don't think Brandon Aiyuk could eventually get there, absolutely. But right now, at this point in his career, he's not on any of those guys' levels. And he's wanting paid in that kind of tier of wide receivers. And that's why the 49ers are not upping their offer. Because, number one, they're going to have some expiring contracts after this year, right? You got to pay Brock Purdy. Talanoa Hufanga is going to be due for an extension. Charvarius Ward's going to be due for an extension. I think Dre Greenlaw is probably going to be due for an extension as well. So the 49ers have to really be careful with what they pay Brandon Aiyuk. It's got to make sense for both parties involved. And obviously that's the situation the Niners are running into, is they don't want to up their offer, number one, because they know that Brandon Aiyuk is not worth the price tag that he wants. And they have to pay some other, superstar players in the next year. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a team out there that will pay Brandon Aiyuk over $30 million a year, because again, what is being reported is that both the Steelers and the Patriots have had offers on the table for Brandon Aiyuk on a contract extension, and he has obviously agreed to terms on those contract extensions, but the 49ers aren't trading him because they're not getting what they believe is good in return. They still have to agree to terms on who they're receiving in the trade, again, whether it's picks or players. So that, I think, really that is the biggest holdup in this situation. Like the 49ers, they may have a potential deal in place, or they may be in talks with a team out there that wants to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. They may agree to terms on the trade, but Brandon Aiyuk may not agree to terms on the contract he's receiving, which again is making these deals consistently fall apart. And I believe that's happened both ways. I think the Niners have received or have been offered a package that they don't agree with, or that they don't want to trade for. And then Brandon Aiyuk, accepts the contract extension or likes the money that he's getting in return from that team. And again, it goes the other way as well. I think the Niners have had a trade package in place, have been ready to accept the trade, and then Brandon Aiyuk doesn't agree to terms on the contract that team is offering him. So again, it's a double-edged sword. When will this thing, when will this saga end? I don't know. I think it could go on as far as a couple days up until the season last year, kind of like last year with Nick Bosa. It could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in the next 2 weeks. Nobody really knows. I definitely think right now, though, the expectation that he is traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's kind of been the talk around the league for a minute. I know Rappaport has kind of touched on that a little bit, that the expectation right now is that he will be traded more than likely to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, something inside of me is telling me that I still genuinely think that the 49ers will find a solution to this and Brandon Aiyuk will remain on the roster. Again, they can franchise tag him. They can tell him to play on the 5th-year option. Like, the time is kind of running out. There's going to be a lot more teams, I think, down the road that are going to, like the New England Patriots, withdraw themselves from the situation and focus on their team. Because at this point in time, it's becoming such a distraction, not only for the 49ers, but for some other teams out there. And at the end of the day, Brandon Aiyuk either agrees to terms on the contract that the 49ers have offered him. That's A. B, he plays on the 5th-year option, maybe gets the franchise tag, which will up his pay just a little bit by probably $5 or $6 million to roughly $19 to $20 million a year. Or again, the 49ers may work out a trade. But right now, I genuinely think if he were to get traded, it doesn't make sense to me why the 49ers would wait this entire time on trading him. I think they should have, if they were really thought that they, weren't going to get a deal done with him, they should have traded the guy before the draft. And obviously in that regard, they would be able to, potentially find his replacement in the draft, or just kind of get more draft capital, because again, they're in win now mode. And that would have made the most sense in terms of trying to get players back in return, that obviously would hopefully make an immediate difference. And now with it being August, it just doesn't make sense trading Brandon Aiyuk unless you're getting a very good, you're getting a couple good veteran players that are immediately starters. I know Amari Cooper's name's been thrown out there for the Cleveland Browns in a potential trade. So to me right now, it does not make sense. You're in win now mode. Obviously you're kind of Super Bowl or bust still right now. Your Super Bowl window is not closed yet. Will it be closing? Yeah, I mean, this a lot of people are kind of looking at this year as the 49ers' last hurrah. The team could look a lot different next year. And again, that's why it doesn't make sense that the 49ers wouldn't trade him before the draft to immediately get help in return for Brandon Aiyuk, whether that was a first-round pick. I know the Steelers were reported, it was reported that the Steelers offered the Niners a first-round pick back around the draft time, and they didn't accept it. They're obviously not going to get another first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk in return anymore. We're already kind of so late in the season, it just wouldn't make sense. They're not going to get that. I genuinely think the only way the Niners trade Aiyuk is if they're really getting somebody that's going to make an immediate difference on this team. Whether that's James Daniels from the Steelers, the tackle, whether it's Amari Cooper from the Browns. That obviously there would be some fall off. I think Brandon Ayuk's better than Amari Cooper, but I think Amari Cooper would fill his shoes just fine for this year. Things will get interesting. It's already getting interesting. Obviously, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. When will he be traded? What will he be traded for? Which team's going to trade for him? Do you guys think the Niners are going to end up keeping him? I'm still on the keep Brandon Aiyuk thing. I genuinely think deep down that the Niners will eventually find a solution to this and have him remain on the 49ers. And I could be completely wrong. I hope I'm not, but I could be. But obviously only time will tell. And, there's more intel about this situation coming out every day, obviously. So whether he's traded or re-signed, obviously I'll keep you guys posted and updated. But just wanted to come on here. I haven't gave my thoughts on this situation yet all off season. So I wanted to come on here and kind of talk about it. So let me know what you guys think will happen with Brandon Aiyuk this offseason, whether he gets signed, traded, whatever it is. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.